Hi, everybody. Great to see everyone again. Sinead McNamara is my name. As you all know, I'm founder of the National Menopause Summit, and welcome to another chapter of Menopause Supports. And I'm delighted today to be joined by the phenomenal Alana Kirk. And Alana is a best-selling author. She is also a certified coach and a motivational speaker and works specifically really with women in midlife. And Alana is one of our expert panelists at the National Menopause Summit's two-day symposium at the Aviva Stadium on the 11th and 12th of April this year. And Alana will also conduct one of our breakout sessions across both days. So we're delighted to have the opportunity to chat with her today. Hello, Alana. How are you doing?
Hello, and I'm excited and phenomenal. That's a good start to the week anyway. But no, delighted to be here. I'm so thrilled to be talking about how women can feel empowered. My favorite.
Well, we're absolutely delighted to have you, Alana, because I think one of the central themes that runs through the summit, which kind of underpins, if you like, all of the fact-based learning and education and empowerment that the summit delivers, both in terms of the workplace and the journey through menopause, is this whole idea that life is not over, life is for living, grab it by the you-know-whats, let's move.
The love handles.
Grab it by the love handles. We're women, we're magnificent, we're in midlife, we're not going to die in a corner somewhere, and we're just going to move forward strongly and powerfully. So we're delighted to have you as a major contributor on the day. It's fantastic.
Thanks so much. And I think that's such an important part of the picture. I mean, you're absolutely right. And I work as the midlife coach. So I work with women from their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, be they, having a whole change in life or just overwhelmed, whatever it might be. And I always check in with them to say, where are you in that journey? And the conversation can become so bogged down in the negative aspect of it. Whereas actually, the core theme to most of my work is let's forget about aging gracefully. Let's age powerfully.
Yeah.
And part of aging powerfully is, and we all age from our 20s, 30s, 40s. Aging isn't something that suddenly happens when you're 50.
Indeed.
But aging powerfully means that you take radical responsibility for your health, for your emotional health, for your physical health. And that's not something women were often taught to do. Menopause happens often at the most real cold-faced part of a woman's life. She has multiple care responsibilities, parents, maybe children, maybe a career, whatever it might be. And then she's having all these physical and emotional changes, and because she's been so used to being so many things to so many other people, she's not necessarily paying that much attention to herself. Yes. And aging powerfully is this idea that we dial down that external voice, the culture and society. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here.
Swear away.
Far right bullshit that women can only be something to themselves, want to be something to somebody else, and actually really invest fully in yourself from day one. I have 3 teenage daughters. My goal is for them to understand that you matter from day one, and from a place of strength. You can be whoever you want to whoever you want, but it has to be in a place of strength.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, one of the more positive, now we got a mixed bag in terms of our responses to our nationwide menopause survey, which we very recently conducted. But one of the really positive points was that actually 76% of our respondents agreed with the statement that perimenopause and menopause was an ideal time for change and growth, which I think is a hugely positive response to get. And my sort of feeling on that, Alana, would be that as we move through our lives as women, and as we get older, so I'm 55 now, and certainly I have found over the last many years, if you like, that that sense of feeling more confidence about yourself, and also less concerned with the opinions of others. And that's a hugely positive happening, if you like, in your life, is it not?
It's huge. I mean, if we just talk about how we are this unique generation of women, and we really are. There has never been a generation like us in history, because up until very recently, women were sort of had one main role in society, and that was as that mother role, nurturer. And then very much, if she did have a family, she was fecked into the corner to knit and desexualized and devalued. Absolutely. And what's happening now is that women are in this amazing space. We've got an extra 20, 30 years of life expectancy. Between my mother and my youngest daughter, there's nearly 30 years of extra life expectancy.
Wow, it's incredible.
Because of the increases in health and all of that wonderful stuff. which means women who maybe gave birth to a family can get to a point in life where they're still young, they're still in midlife, long before they get old, and they get to give birth to themselves.
Yeah,
And
wow.
this idea
Powerful. Mm.
of just, and menopause and perimenopause is this change. And if we can get this part of it right, then oh my God, and I see it. I mean, I'm 54 this weekend, and I went back to college in my 40s, have a whole new career,
Mm.
having had a 20-year big career in the nonprofit sector.
Mm.
Many of my clients are instigating change. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to, so a lot of change is thrust upon women. I mean, we go through life and a lot of things can happen. You know, you maybe have kids, maybe there's fertility issues. I mean, just my story alone, there's a hell of a lot of change. Our parents, we may go through divorce, children maybe leave home, but there's so many opportunities as well to,
Absolutely.
like I say, grab life by the love handles and do things that other generations of women just couldn't do, because we have this
Absolutely.
time
Yeah.
and we have these opportunities, and we can be financially independent. We don't have to get married. We don't have to have children. We can have a whole new life after that period of time. And if we can get the menopause piece right, because it's so important what you're doing. It's so great to give women the tools. And when I talk about aging powerfully,
Mm.
it is about taking that responsibility, get the information you need, get the support you need, do whatever you need to do,
Mm.
so that you can then take this time, take this amazing opportunity that we have, and run with it. And understanding that maybe a part of your life you spend it just constantly reacting to external demands
Oh
and
my God, so
expectations,
much so. Yeah.
and now is a time to start going, I'm going to start responding
Mm.
from a place of internal needs and desires,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
listening to that, dialing down that external voice, that societal and cultural voice of what a woman should look like, be like, do, and start listening and responding from the inside. What do I want and
Yeah.
what do I need? And
Yeah.
it's got boundaries, about having boundaries and saying no nonsense, no nonsense no's and beautiful yeses. What do I want to say yes to at this time in my life? Often,
Absolutely.
you know, when I'm working with somebody, and often I maybe work with somebody who's got divorced or divorced, and they necessarily didn't want that.
Mm.
Some do and some
Mm.
don't. And I'm working with lots of women who are maybe thinking their marriage is going to end, but actually when they invest in themselves, their
Mm.
relationship changes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Or I work with women who are coming out of a marriage. I remember one client, you know, early 60s, and you know, her whole life had just been pulled from under her. But actually, when she realized that she could create a whole new life for herself, and I'll
Mm.
get women to a point, I won't do it early on, but you know, especially if they've had a trauma of some description, I'll say to you, not negating the pain or loss, what do you have now in your life as a result of this
Mm.
change?
Mm.
And it's such an
Absolutely.
important piece to ask.
Absolutely. Well, you know, a couple of really interesting points that you made there that I can bring back to myself for a moment. Number one, if I had not suffered significant rigors of menopause in terms of the symptoms that I experienced, which everyone on the internet knows now was crippling brain fog, the menopause summit would never have been born in my mind at all. And number two point, which is a point I always make, Alana, and I know that you will 100% agree with this. I am so thankful to be 55 years of age in 2024
Yeah,
rather
100%.
than 55 years of age in 1984. When we consider the gargantuan leaps that have been made in the last 2 or 3 years at this point, it's quite incredible. And it has moved, as we know, menopause and that stage of women's life where, as you say, you're, in broad strokes, desexualized, disappearing, invisible, nobody
And
cares.
now we have Frankie and Grace and Jane Fonda, you know, having
Exactly.
sex in their 70s. And I mean, it's great. But
Exactly. It's
exactly what you're
absolutely
saying.
amazing. Yeah,
When
it's
I
so
was,
powerful.
one of the reasons I work as a midlife coach is because of my own experiences in midlife,
Mm.
and my mother's. So
Yes.
you know, when my mom, when I look back and when I was a teenager and I thought my mom was going through a mental breakdown,
Mm.
now I know it was menopause.
Yes.
And she was suicidal,
Yeah.
and she was at the end of her tether. She felt completely and utterly neglected and negated by society.
Yeah.
And it was very hard to watch. And, you know, then I had my own experience at 45, you know, within 9 months, I lost my marriage and my mother.
Mm.
5 years before that, my mom had a stroke just 3 days after my third baby was born. And
Yeah.
I'd had these 5 years. So I got married and bought a house and got pregnant all within 9 months.
Mm.
And then in the next 5 years, I had 7 pregnancies and 3 children at the end of it. And that's not an experience that is unique. A lot of women nowadays were having children later. There's maybe
Yeah.
issues.
It's a lot though, Alana. It's a lot.
It's a lot. And you're
It's a
still
lot.
trying,
Let's
and society's
acknowledge that
telling
it's a
you
lot.
this is what you're supposed to look like, and you put a smile on your face and be
Your
happy.
hair better look great, and I hope you're still a size 10.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. You run that baby fat off. And actually, what I talk about in my book is this idea that research was done about 20 years ago and said women were falling into what was called the double bind. So you had to be all things that are good being a woman. So you have to be, nurturing and kind and soft and be brilliant in the kitchen. But you also now had to be good at all the male stuff. Ballsy, bold, ambitious, which is kind of against, you're conflicting with yourself.
Yeah.
Research was done 20 years later, 10 years ago, and they said actually not only has it not improved, there's a third bind. So women are now in the triple bind. You've got to be great at all the female stuff, you've got to be great at all the male stuff, and now you've got to do it looking great with this real narrative, the social narrative of how you're supposed to look and be and do. And so that pressure, I think of that woman still, me, and the pressure I put myself under, that perfectionism piece. And, then my last baby was born and my mum was at the birth, and 4 days later she had a terrible stroke. And so was rendered completely paralyzed and brain damaged, and needed 24-hour care for the next 5 years. So I went from one care mode to another. And at the end of that, my husband left. He came out as gay, probably no surprise, in fairness. I was in such a hormonal haphazard meltdown. But it was just that moment of looking in the mirror when I was 45. And it wasn't the fact that my mum had died and my husband had gone, my marriage was over. It was looking in the mirror and realizing I did not recognize who was looking back.
Yeah.
I had my head barrel down in survival mode for so many years. I had just been putting on the face every day and performing like a monkey. And a lot of women do perform like performing monkeys.
Absolutely.
And menopause is this amazing ability in time. And it's a 10-year journey, as you know, where we get to figure out, who am I? Who am I now? And the question I always ask my clients, whatever age, where are you now? And how are you now? And who are you now at this age and stage? Because it changes constantly.
Yes.
You're a different person. I mean, as I say, I'm 54 this week. I'm 9 years on from that woman.
Yeah.
I'm a different lifetime away from her.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's incredible. And I think as well, as women, and again, we're speaking generally here today, obviously, you sort of wear this exoskeleton, this sort of external face, if you like, that you wear to try and tick all of these boxes, do all of this work. And I think certainly in my experience, or from my personal experience, when you hit menopause, you go, it's not that we're not going to do work anymore. It's not that we don't take care of or love the people in our lives. Of course we do. But I'm not just going to be, Grace Jones here, slave to the rhythm. And what I've actually done here is I have created a life where not only am I at the bottom of everyone else's lists, I'm at the bottom of my own bloody list. It's insane.
So whether they technically come to me because they want to change career, or because maybe their marriage is over, or they think their marriage might be over and they don't know what to do about that, or whatever, they tend to have 2 main symptoms. They're either totally overwhelmed, or frankly, they're underwhelmed. They're underwhelmed that this is what I've got for all the work I've put in.
Yeah.
And they're usually a mixture of the both. I mean, certainly there are days I could be, and I think that's such an important, powerful moment. Whereas women before didn't really have much option because you became old quite quickly.
Yes,
now
indeed.
We don't. We have, the midlife is now this extended, decades-long period of life. And we are much younger for longer. And I don't just mean, and certainly don't mean the way we look, but my dad is 87. And he only stopped running 3 times a week last November.
Wow. I've got a cat here giving me grief.
I don't know where mine is. Mine's usually here going, why are you talking without me? We are changing everything. And the opportunity not exists for women. And what's happening a lot with some of the people that I work with is, I mean, one of the really important statistics that came out of your research was how it's affecting your relationship with partner.
Yes. Yeah.
So 38% said yes, it was negatively affecting. Well, that makes total sense to me, because you're going through enormous change. This doesn't have to be a negative statistic,
Mm.
because we get this, we're sold this lie that, we're still sold this lie that, you have to meet the one and the one will complete you. What a load of bollocks, right? You have to complete yourself. And then hopefully you'll find someone who will complement your life. And I'm
Yeah.
going to say this a little bit controversial, and some people won't like it, but you know what? I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to empower you. The key is, we may not have one. You
Mm.
are the one. You are
Yeah.
your one.
Agree.
Then we may have someone who we form a family with.
Mm.
And what if we can change society's view that the end of a marriage or the end of a relationship is a failure? If you've loved and been loved, that's
Mm.
a success. But the person who complemented your life for a period of time, you both are individuals, and you need to thrive as individuals. A failure is staying in a relationship where one person or both are not continuing to thrive and evolve. I'm not
Absolutely.
negating the pain. I'm
Yeah,
not negating the
absolutely.
loss.
No, of course, of course.
But you may now have a different stage of your life. And I work, with a lot of women who are trying to, and we get to redefine what a post-marriage relationship looks and feels like.
Mm.
I
Mm.
can tell you the number of my clients who have come out of a marriage and go, I don't know if I'd live with a man again. I
Oh,
want a
I've heard
different
that so
kind of
many times.
relationship.
Yeah, I've heard that so many
And
times.
I'm the same. I mean, I'm divorced, and I, as I said, I want to take a man's shirt off. I don't want to iron it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want a different kind of relationship now,
yes. Yeah,
where
yeah.
I can be me, and yes, there's that, or whatever, or there's people who want to live with people again. But the point is, women now get to choose, and it's new because we
Yeah.
weren't given the choice.
Yes.
So for me, if I had one piece of advice about aging powerfully, it is understanding you have agency.
Yeah.
Understanding it's so important to check in and go, who am I?
Mm.
Where am I? How am I at this age, at this stage of life?
Yes.
Part of that will be the health piece. Get that piece right.
Yes.
And the energy you get, that lack of the cuddle hormone that goes now, which means you're not going to be the people pleaser you were,
Yeah.
that doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Mm.
Where it's bad, and where I see it coming up with clients, is the lack of communication.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had a client who was really fed. I can't tell you the number of women who come to me and they're just fed up. They want to run away. They want to leave their husbands, their children. I still remember this kind of, and she, on paper, beautiful life, really nice husband who was not a bad man.
Mm.
Two adults, two sons, 17, 18. And she had a very, very nice life. And she said to me, do you know what I do? I stand in my lounge every day, and there's an apartment block across the road. And I stand looking at that apartment, and I just want to go and have my own apartment and live there.
Mm.
And then I'll come visit my family, because
Yeah.
she's so drained. And we actually had to do a whole piece of work around what it felt like when she walked back in through her own door. Because the minute she walked through her door, she just felt, oh God, because she was just going to get pulled.
Yeah.
And we had to do a huge piece of work about filling in her life. And let's call her Sinead,
Yeah.
otherwise not her name. So let's go and project Sinead.
Mm.
Who are you separate to these roles? Interesting, I have it in front of me here because my daughter just came back from Barcelona, from Tallinn, and brought me a nesting doll set.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely.
Yes.
And I
Oh,
actually use these in my work
yeah,
because
yeah.
we all start as the core. And we immediately take on a cover as our family and culture. So I was born in 1970 in Belfast. So I took on a certain doll that represented, and some of those beliefs were wrong. When I grew up in the 70s and 80s, I did not have any female role models
Yeah,
that were so
absolutely.
there was a message that was given to me. And then you might take on the cover of what you kind of do as your career. For me, sort of writing, traveling. Then you will take one on as a partner, then one perhaps as a parent, then perhaps as your career, until it's the outer doll that you present to the world. This is the Facebook cover of you.
Mm.
Now, that's not to say all of these are false or fake. But here's the rub, and here's what I want to change for the next generation, and why our generation is so important, and why what you do is so important, because we are the trailblazers. We are the bridge between the women before who couldn't,
Yeah.
and the women and my daughters and other girls who will do it differently.
Mm.
And what can happen is that these covers smother the core. And what we want to do is make the core color the covers.
Absolutely.
For you, regardless of what roles you play.
Yeah.
And that is aging powerfully. It's
Yeah.
understanding that, am I acting in a way that is being told to me I should act as a parent, worker, whatever? And I mean, careers is a massive thing, and I know you're talking a lot about this in the summit. I do a lot of work with women in this space, and I was doing a big talk last year for LinkedIn. And, you know, women have to understand. I have this little mantra I said to myself, I said to anyone who'll listen, when life feels hard, it's usually because it is hard.
Mm,
Ask why and ask what you need. But
yeah.
instead we just blaze through, we think we're the problem.
Yes.
Women right now are working in a system and living in a system that was not built for or by us. Now, I'm not going to go on the patriarchy rant. It doesn't
Yes.
serve them either. But the point is, when women started entering the workforce, the system was created for men who would go to work and have them home and have someone look after them.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
when women entered the workplace, and so when I think about all the years of women who were interested in science and art and academia
And just
and,
not allowed work.
and had
Not allowed
no
work.
capacity to express themselves in any
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Anyway, when women started entering the workplace, society didn't stop and go, oh, right, brilliant. Now we're going to bring in women and we're going to benefit from their perspective and their experience and all that. And we're going to, and no, let's reform how society works so that
Mm,
this works. Of course they
mm,
did. Women
mm.
just edged their way in bit by bit. And that lie of being told we could have it all just meant we ended up doing it all.
Exactly.
And so we have to change the system. And at
Mm,
the moment, the system is still, although it is changing, but it was very much based on a ladder, a man who climbed up the ladder because he had all the supports around him.
mm, mm.
The actual, what women need and what systems and places like LinkedIn and a lot of other companies are, is that actually your life is a climbing wall.
Yes.
It's a straight up ladder.
Yeah.
You might be like this. You might have to go left. You might go down a foothold in order to lurch right. That's what I did.
Mm,
You might have to hang on for dear life for 5 years just to get through maybe one period of your life before you move up. And when companies and women understand, and I think women do have this slightly easier than men, that we can change and adapt our careers, we can move, we can go sideways. That pressure to always go up is taken off, and then you can express and be yourself at different times of your life.
yeah.
Life is a journey, it is not a destination. There's and you know, I talk about this in the book, that we start our set, and I can see my 18-year-old doing it right now. She's creating the checklist from which she will mark the success of her life, right?
Mm,
And for most of us, certainly in our 20s, it started off possibly looking like maybe a bit of travel, go and get some education, build a career, maybe have a family, find the one, right? Check, 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 check. And then you get to midlife now. We're no longer old. We're going, hey, I am young, vibrant, valiant. I've checked those boxes, or maybe some of them didn't work out. Some of them
yeah.
didn't make me as happy as I thought they were going to be. But the landscape ahead of us is virgin. So
Yes.
what we have to do, aging powerfully, means we take the colored pen in our hand and we start writing those signposts for ourselves.
Alana, I couldn't agree more. And I know this is kind of a separate conversation, but you know, you have to ask yourself, and when you get older, I think you begin to realize this, you know, how many of the choices that we made as women, rhetorical question, were choices we really wanted to make, or societal ideals that were not forced upon us, but almost sort of in the ether got into us through osmosis. You know, you must do this by this age. Now, I know obviously there's the whole biological imperative. You can't turn around and have kids at 56 unless you're Madonna or somebody. But, you know, generally speaking, that's a problem. But I mean, all of those structures that are handed to women or expected for women, how many of those did we really choose, and how many of them did we do because of peer pressure, because what we were told, because all of that kind of
And
stuff.
do they suit us? And actually, there's 4 stages of a sort of career. There's the building one up, and then there's the sort of reaching that level, and then there's moving up, and then there's that sort of, I call it repurposement, and I'm seeing it more and more and more, and I'm seeing it in men, where you might have not, because we've got this extended midlife, we've got this extra 20, 30 years in midlife, not old age. So you might have done a 20, 30-year career, but you're not ready to retire. So you repurpose, you do something different, better, more correct,
Yes.
more creative, whatever it is you want.
Yeah.
But the point is, we start that checklist in our 20s, check, check, check. And hopefully by midlife, whether that's in your 40s, 50s, at perimenopause, menopause, you stop and ask a much better question. Not what do I want my life to look like,
Yeah.
but what do I want my life to feel like?
Agree. And you
When
know what?
you
Just to
start
pick
answering that question, everything changes.
Absolutely. And just to pick up on a point that you made there earlier, Alana, with your Russian dolls and the core doll on the inside and all of the many different dolls after that, I think one of the real challenges of midlife, but one of the real opportunities of midlife from a female perspective, and maybe from a human perspective, but particularly from a perimenopause and menopause perspective. It becomes increasingly difficult to ignore the core. The core is screaming at you. And whereas before you go, shut up with this, need to move on with that, please be quiet, certainly.
Or you hear the voice, but you think, oh, I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I'm
just push
wrong
that
because
down.
society is
Yeah.
telling me I should be this.
Exactly,
I'm wrong.
exactly. So the core is screaming now, and the core is trying to get out. And I know that all sounds a bit Oprah Winfrey, wishy-washy, but I really do believe that. And I also think too, which is wonderful for the women behind us, as you said yourself earlier, which is so powerful as well, is that we are the first generation of women. Well, we are the first generation of women in a lot of ways, if you like, this generation. Number one, we're the first generation of women to work, you know, and have the opportunity to work. And secondly, now that this generation has reached midlife, we're the first generation of women to have, let's call it, a vibrant midlife, rather than when I was a teenager and people in their 50s were old. They were like, they were just old,
yeah.
and that was it. It was over for them.
My mom growing up, I mean, the worst thing you could possibly do was be mutton dressed as lamb.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
She used to say to me, oh my God, do I look too young in this? Whereas,
I know.
Whereas I'd be like saying to my girls, God, no, do I look like, you know, and
absolutely.
It is that idea though that we get to reinvent. And I do think, I mean, that's why I call the book Midlife Redefined, because we are the generation to redefine our health. And people like you are trailblazing. We're not sitting back and taking second, third, fourth grains, you know. Viagra is sold in every bloody chemist in this country. Why has menopause not been, you know, and we could talk about the sex part as well. But you know, we need to we can redefine now careers, we can redefine marriages, we can redefine post-marriage relationships, we can redefine what a family looks and feels like now. We can redefine travel, independent travel. It's incredible. It's scary, and often we just think the landscape isn't written, but we have to write it. And when we start asking the question, what do we want our lives to feel like, it opens something up. And you know, there is a sense that women are awakening. And if you want to get off the woo-woo piece about the core, let's just call it voice. You know, women, I'm trying to raise 3 feisty female women who understand that they have voice. Now, that's there actually to parent them at times. Now that they've got their voice, they use it. But anyway, because I remember being told, as many women are, because there was such a structure on how women were supposed to be, which is why it's been so late with menopause, because women didn't ask for it earlier, because we weren't taught to ask for it. But I know when I was growing up, I personally was told I was too much. I was too loud.
Look.
And then there's other women who are told you're not enough, or you're too... We're either not enough or you're too.
Could you talk? I was always told, Alana, and I suspected this from, well, I kind of felt a kindred spirit with you when we met, and indeed with a lot of our speakers, because this is a sidebar. There's a certain genre of person that presents at the National Menopause Summit. And again, sorry lads about the bad language, and I'm talking about women with serious cojones, okay? I'm not interested in the man-made, you know, I mean, I know there's, you know, whatever, everybody's entitled to be what they want, but this is all about power, get up, be fabulous, look at
But
these...
even that phrase, I say to my girls, it's not about having balls. I said, where's your ovaries? Like, why are we giving power to men who have balls? Women have more power and more strength. You know, let's not get into that. But you know, women have...
But just to make one point, Alana, and that so much resonates with me. Could you just be a little bit quieter?
Oh yeah.
Just tone it down a bit. Tone it down a bit.
Let's take anger, right? Anger was not an accessory that would look good on a woman. You know, nice outfit, drop the anger. Men, anger makes them look whatever else. Anger is a vastly important emotion, and it comes up a lot in the women I coach, comes up in my life. Yet we were told not to express it or have it. And then, you know, or you know, women have for 1,000 years have been hung as witches and trolled as bitches. A
Yeah.
woman has an opinion or voices it, but this is what we need to do. So going back to what we were talking about, the core there, it is a simple thing of, and a huge part of my work, whether they're making decisions about X, Y, and Z, really what it's about is listening to that voice that might have said, I like this is interesting to me, oh, let's explore that, oh my god, I like sex but I'm not allowed to say I do, so that's too, or whatever is the thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm laughing, like I grew up, I'm a prod from Northern Ireland, so I don't have the Catholic guilt. And I remember moving to Dublin 25 years ago, and I was sitting around a table of women, and just because this is the kind of thing I talk about all the time, and my next book is going to be about sex and sensuality, ended up having a conversation, and I cannot tell you, in a room of maybe 10 women, we were sitting around the dinner table, 3 or 4 of them had never masturbated.
Yeah, I know.
And I was like, because they were told not to, because they were told that part was difficult and dirty and whatever. And so when I talk about the core and by asking me, it's about self-expression, it's about understanding and asking for the supports we need, the medical support we need, the information we need, the facts we need, and to understand that that piece that we started with at the beginning is because menopause does not happen in isolation. It happens often at the busiest time of a woman's life. And so, well, someone will come to me and they want to do X, Y, and Z, or they're coming out of a marriage, or they're changing career, or whatever they want to do. And they'll say, but my whole confidence has dropped. My confidence has dropped, or I'm feeling really anxious, or I'm not sleeping, or I've just no interest in my husband. I just feel like and they've just lost all sense of connection to themselves. And so when I talk about that core, it's about starting to understand its voice, and it's your
Yes.
internal voice. It's about responding to it, hearing it, listening to it, and then using it.
Yes.
And I can tell you that the more I have learned to listen to my internal voice, the less I have to shout.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm trying to get, when I'm in this house, and I raised 3 teenagers, so, it's not their job to make me happy, but, it can be frustrating at times. And I know when I get to that point where I feel so unseen and unheard, it's really because I'm not seeing and hearing myself.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
And that piece about relationships and the stats and well done on doing that information, because we need more and more of it. Women need to start using their voices in their relationships, and not loudly, but in a coherent way. What am I asking for? What do I want? I had a client, she came to me one day, and she works full-time, her husband works full-time, and she's just at the end of her tether. She wanted to literally leave her job, leave her husband, leave her family. And she doesn't anymore, because she's just taken the beat to connect what was wrong. And the morning she'd come to me, she had picked up all of the shoes, she'd fecked them into the children's bedroom, she'd had a whole tantrum and walked off. As it happened, and I'm just giving you a very quick example of this, like, so just in the voice in that house was, hers was loud because it was given off, but she wasn't being heard by anybody,
Oh,
because
yeah.
she wasn't hearing herself.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
her husband's a good man, there's nothing wrong with him, but they're both getting up in the morning, they were doing the kids, she was trying to go to the gym, so she was getting up at an ungodly hour, going to the gym, coming home, getting the kids ready, then they were going doing a full day's work. He volunteers 4 days a week at a sports club thing, so he was gone every late afternoon dinner, so she was doing the whole children's thing.
Yeah.
I'm listening to this going, I can hear real inequality, so
Yeah.
therefore her resentment is high, So we're doing stuff, things, we're dealing with an issue at work, and instead of running away, I'm saying, use your voice and tell them what it is you want. I was able to articulate herself, and actually that sorted out. So this particular day, she goes, and then I got up and I go to the gym, and I said, what if you don't come home? And she went, what do you mean? What if you get up? What if you have another extra half an hour in bed, then go to the gym and go straight to work?
Yeah.
What if he does the morning shift, you do the evening shift, because he's out doing something, he's volunteering, but he's doing something that really nurtures him
He
and
likes, and
good for
fair enough.
him.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
said, there's inequality there, and that's
There's so
causing
much inequality, Alana, and
rather than shouting at everybody because you're
yeah.
pissed off. So she went home and she said, how would it feel if you do the morning shift, I do the evening shift, and then the time we have? And he said, yeah, no, that works fine. She gets up, she goes to the gym, and she goes to work.
Yeah.
And it has changed everything, because she's not
Yes.
resentful, she's not angry, but we have to know what it is we want to say.
Absolutely. And we also have to kind of reach a point, or have someone help us, like you, reach a point where we realize that we're sort of we're being a bit robotic. you know, and look, we won't get into, Alana, because there's the whole separate conversation, the fact that, and I'm sorry it's a fact, and I'm sorry if this is going to piss anybody off who's listening to this, is that women are doing the vast majority of domestic chores.
100%.
It's, oh, don't say that.
And it's not just the physical, it's the emotional burden.
Exactly. Oh, no, they're not. It's all equal. It's not equal. Stop talking shite, okay?
And
women do the vast majority of the chores, but they also do them as well, Alana, I would say. And again, I'll probably get a lot of grief over this as well, is because we're almost conditioned to do them, and we do them blindly. And sometimes you just have to wake up and go, I just can't do this anymore.
But also because society has told us that our value lies in 100%. Being this person, right?
Yeah.
So this comes up so...
Alana, I'm going to pause you for 1 second. I'll tell you why I'm going to pause the recording, because I've got a cat here that I'm going to strangle in a minute because he's just meowing at me. Hold on 1 second there. Sorry, everybody, just had to stop there. A little domestic thing to deal with. Alana, sorry, women in the home, etc. Carry on.
We believe that a lot of our value comes in us. So often when I'm working with somebody, and I so hear it in myself, I am doing something and I'm expecting to be appreciated and seen for it. And my kids, when I say to me, well, I didn't ask you to. I'm like, oh, no, you didn't. And that piece around value. And so this comes up so much, where I almost will come back and say, but you are perpetuating this.
Oh, totally.
So where else can you find value in yourself? And we're doing too much, and we're disempowering our people in our family. And so I have this thing that it came through my own life, and then I realized so many of my clients. And there was one particular woman, she was in her 40s, she had divorced her husband, or she left her husband, she had 2 small boys, and she came to me because she actually felt guilt that she'd left the marriage. So she was fine with the fact she'd done it and whatever, and she ran her own business. But we were dealing with all of that, and a lot of that's just social conditioning, right?
Yeah.
And whatever.
Yeah.
But she was just she had no time because she's got the kids, and then she's running her own business and X, Y, Z. I said, talk me through your day. And this happens so much. Women think they have an energy problem, or they think they maybe have a time management problem.
Just doing so much, it's ridiculous.
It's not. It is just, where are you valuing your time? Anyway, this has happened several times. And she talked me through her day, and she was getting the kids to school, and she was coming home, she was clearing up, she was tidying up, she was getting the dinner ready, and then she was sitting down to work, and there was no time for her to exercise. And I said, what are you doing? Why are you teaching these boys that when they come home to a clean home, that the house is miraculously clean? And that I said, I do not lift a cup, and I mean this, I do not lift a cup when my children are not in the house. And I do this exercise where you do golden whatever. And when you have golden time, that is time when no one is out asking for your time or space, be that work, partner, kids, whatever it might be, parents, mother, whatever. That is your time. Do not waste it doing something that you can do. So silver time is when you can be doing your own thing, but the caveat is someone might disturb you. And then the bronze time is, and I said, take your kids to school, go do your exercise, come down your work. And when you pick them up, it becomes part of play.
Yes.
To tidy up and make the dinner. And I had another client, exactly the same thing. She would come home, her kids were in the nursery, she would clean it all up. Why? They're 2 and 3. They don't need to see a clean home.
I know. But isn't it gas though? I've said this, Alana, and it's that kind of crazy conditioning in women. I have had Saturday afternoons, or whatever day you like, where you take a bit of time and you sit on the couch and you do whatever you want. You want to read, you want to listen to music, you want to watch Netflix, whatever. And there's a little voice in my head going, the ensuite could do with a little bit of a clean.
Glad you said that.
The ensuite could do with a bit of a clean. Or do you know what? Now, I'm not even ashamed to say that the inside of my kitchen presses, you could grow potatoes in.
Who cares?
Shit, I know. Oh, I agree. But you're sitting there going, could clean that out, could do this, could do that, go do this. Why are you just sitting here? Go and do that.
So I'll tell you whose that voice is. So I very similar. And so I love to read, for example. So, and now it's coming into spring, I will do everything to get half an hour to sit outside in the sun and read a book. And the minute I used to do that, the voice would start, oh, don't sit down. So I have to, and part of what I do, and when women are saying this to me, and I would say to you, whose is that voice?
Yeah.
Now, when I really analysed that voice, it was my dad's. Now, not in a bad way, but my dad is one of those people, he's post-war, him and my mum, they made everything. They made the curtains. My dad's a wood turner. He actually made the furniture. They made jam. They made everything. Right. So, baking. I mean, my poor self, I never bought a packet of biscuits when I had young kids. I thought I had to bake everything. But anyway, that voice is his And even now, at 87, he wouldn't put his arse in a chair till about 9 o'clock at night.
Mm.
That's fine. And that sense of doing and accomplishment has given me such a push in life to do things. But does it serve me when
Mm.
because let's not forget, he had a wife making his dinner,
Yes.
cleaning the
Yeah, yeah,
house, okay?
yeah, yeah.
So it's great if he could go and have his photography projects and do X, Y, Z. So does it serve me?
Mm.
So that voice that makes me go, oh God, I shouldn't be sitting down. I should, because there's always something to do.
Always, of course.
Always, even the best gift, my favorite child, I have 3 daughters, and my favorite child is the robot Hoover I bought myself in the Black Fridays.
Nice.
And it has transformed my life. I don't know why it took me so long to buy one, but anyway, even with Zoomy cleaning up all over the place, the 2 minutes later it needs to be done. So it's always going to be there.
Mm.
You have to invest, going back to voice. Whose is the voice telling you that you shouldn't sit down? For me,
Yeah.
it was definitely my dad's, and that's okay. And does it serve me, a woman with no partner, 3 small kids, running her own business? No, it doesn't.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
I trust myself that I will get up and do the things that need to be done.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
difference is finding out, is that voice a societal voice or is it
Mm.
mine? And then sit down and read the bloody book.
Yeah, yeah.
Or go for the run, or go and do whatever you need to do, or pick up a phone, or just sit and do nothing, whatever it is you need.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So that voice piece is so important. And it's so important through that menopause journey, because it's about, so I will, and I'm not a doctor in any way, so but I will always say the first thing I do when I'm coaching someone is go, let's have a holistic look at your life, because everything affects everything. Your health, your relationships, your relationship with money, your career, everything affects everything else. And they might say, oh no, I don't think I'm menopausal. And then we'll get into it. Oh, but I'm anxious. Oh, I've lost confidence. Oh, X, Y, Z.
Mm.
Because we think, oh, I have to wait till I've got some hot flushes before I have. No, this could
Yeah.
be happening for 2 or 3 years beforehand.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's having the confidence to go. So I will always say, you need to go and prioritize this as a project.
Mm.
Go and get the research. And if the first doctor doesn't give you what you need, go to another doctor.
Oh,
I will
absolutely.
always say to somebody, whether I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but I think I'm right, so I'm going to continue to do it. Regardless of whether you've got a GP, your GP's for everything else, get yourself a menopause specialist for the 10 years that you're on this journey.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I spent my 20s and 30s and early 40s trying to find the right gin cocktail. And
Yeah.
now it's about finding the right HRT cocktail.
Oh, absolutely.
Over the course of this 10 years, it's changing. You know, I started off on just estrogen because I was on the coil, and then I'm back on the progesterone, and then I'm now on testosterone. Happy days.
Oh, I know, testosterone. Love.
And got my bloods checked and my estrogen had dropped. So I'm up on, you know, and it's constantly fluctuating.
Mm.
And that has, so we have to be on this. And the
We
one I
do,
said,
and another really important point on that, Alana, and thankfully our wonderful doctors do make this point. And I had said, and I'm not a doctor, but I had said from obviously a
we're
layperson.
doctors of life, Sinead.
Indeed, I had said from a layperson's perspective, I said, guys, can you be sure to make the point to women and men and everybody who's to be educated at the summit, because the summit is not designed just for midlife women. The summit is an educational platform for man, woman, child, beast, vegetable, everybody, so that everybody on the planet is informed and educated on menopause. But I said to the doctors, will you do me a favor? Will you stand up and say to people, when you go on HRT, if you're lucky enough to be able to, if you're not a complex case or you choose to go on HRT, you need to regularly check in with yourself, Alana, right? And I'm saying that from experience. I have gone through a number of different delivery methods, as they call them, whether it's a patch or a coil or a spray or a cream or a whatever, right? I even started on Livial, which was actually the tablet, right? And what I remember at one point, and it was before personally I had testosterone, my doctor recommended testosterone be included in my prescription, and terms and conditions apply, guys. This, you must go to your own doctor to discuss all of this stuff. Obviously, menopause.
It does really help with your brain fog.
Oh, it totally does, totally does. But anyway,
yeah,
it's a very individual journey, and obviously it has to be, you know, it has to be discussed with your healthcare professional. But basically, I I have forgotten what I was going to say, and there's menopause brain.
You were going through lots of different types of things, so it's not a one
Oh
size
yes,
fits all. You
exactly,
don't just start
exactly,
menopause and go, oh right, now I'm an HRT for the next 10 years. It's
exactly.
constant checking,
It
constant
is constant checking. And I actually had a period of time a couple of years ago in the middle of my menopause journey. And it can be a journey, as you know, in terms of finding the right products and the right balances, where I
Yes,
sat here,
really
Alana.
lovely. You're
Yeah,
kind
I
of
sat here for about 3 or 4 months feeling like shit. And I woke up one morning and I went, what am I doing? Ring
change
the
it.
clinic.
Something, change. Yeah, change.
Instead of,
So
oh,
this
well,
is the
I'm on
biggest
this
thing.
now, so this is what I'm on, or waiting sort of an inordinate amount of time, an unreasonable amount of time for my protocol to start working for me. So look, here's the, I suppose, the summation of everything that I'm saying in that regard. Yes, get yourself a really good healthcare professional who is educated on HRT, but also take responsibility for how it's working for you. And if after a reasonable period of time you're going, you know what? I'm maybe 65% as good as I was. Know that you can be 100% as good as
Yeah.
you were, and go down that road and insist that we get to that point.
And this is what I mean by aging powerfully.
Yeah.
Aging powerfully means that we are taking radical responsibility
Mm,
for our health first and foremost. And that is exactly checking. So I constantly, we should be checking in daily with ourselves.
mm,
I say this about myself, and regardless whether you're married, not married, in a relationship, whatever, the most important conversations you have are the first and last conversation you have every day, and they should be with yourself.
absolutely.
And it should, the
Absolutely.
first one should be, I literally do this in the morning. I go, hello, and I
Yeah.
squeeze my arm, and it's checking in. And whether you do that through journaling, whether you do that through just, you, you some women can go through life on this default mode for periods of time, and it's survival mode.
Mm,
And you have to, and a lot of women I work with, and the way I describe it to them is, you've been on emergency mode
mm.
for many years, because either just the norm of maybe having a career, kids, parent care, all the stuff, trying, are bums big this year or small? Or what are we, big boobs, small boobs? What's in? Am I who, what? I have spent my entire fucking life being told big bums were bad, and now
Same.
bums
I
are
am
in.
so
Now
happy.
they're in.
I,
What? I've
I,
just spent 20 years of Pilates to get me bum down, and now you're telling me
I'm
it's big.
so happy to hear now that big arses are in, because my God, all my life as well, your arse is massive, and that was hideous.
So in that tsunami, and it's like a tornado that women are living in, blah, blah, blah. And literally I visualize it as a tornado, and you've got your child's hockey stick that needs to be delivered to the school. You've got the report for work. You've got the this, oh shit, my arse. What state is that meant? There's just 1,000 things going on. In the middle of
It's
that tornado
insane.
storm, there has to be a habit of connecting daily to yourself. How
Mm-mm.
am I today?
I
Who am
know.
I today? And
Mm,
what do I need?
yeah.
And on the health point, that is constant, regular check-in. And
Mm,
we do this now, thank goodness, with breast check and with cervical check and all of that, where we get regular checks. We want to get to the stage where women are alerted before they start the hormonal journey. This is why
yes.
this is so important, so they know what's coming, so that
Yeah.
if there's a sudden change, and it's not a hot flush, it's a slight change in the way I feel. I
Mm,
feel suddenly not as confident. I call them the heebie-jeebies.
mm.
Where you just think, I don't feel like myself.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you start to go, and instead we just go, oh, there's something wrong with me,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
as opposed
Yeah.
to me
Yeah.
and society and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah, that's
absolutely.
aging powerfully, is that constant connection to self, checking in with self, but the voice piece is so important, and articulating it. And a lot of women, they want something, but they don't know what it is and what they want.
Mm,
And it's being able to figure out, sit quietly and go, what is it I need from this family? What is it I want from this family? Because otherwise we just end up shouting.
mm,
Or what is it I want? I mean, I can't tell you the number of women who are having issues with their adult children,
mm,
because they're still disempowering them. They're still
mm,
doing everything for them. And then
mm.
there's no, or relationships with their parents. There's ongoing stuff all of the time.
Yeah.
And probably running out. If I can tell you this one thing, and if anyone can even do this now, get a blank bit of paper. I do this sometimes in a group work, and draw a tree. It doesn't have to be a good tree,
Yeah.
right? a line here for the trunk, and just draw all your branches. And I get women to get in a room, and I give them a picture of a tree, and I said, draw all your branches. So a branch for your partner, and then off that branch there might be sub branches, because they might have family, they might have
parents or whatever.
Then maybe a branch for your child if you child, and then off them there's all their sub branches, their teachers, their friends, their whatever. Then your parents and the sub branches of that. Then your sister, then your work and the sub branches, until you've got this massive canopy of all the things that you hold up. Then I want you to look at the roots and draw them down. So what is the cultural impact on you? So me, 1970s Belfast, whatever, Protestant, things that interest me, the sort of the cultural, the roots that bought into who I was and who I am. And then I want you to look at the trunk. And I want you to write the things that are relevant to you, separate to the roots and separate to the branches. And that could be anything from, for me, I mean, that's reading, that's that's creativeness, that's animals, that's travel, that's whatever. And thankfully, I'm filling that trunk out more. And I get them to fill that in. And only then do I say, right, now we're going to go around the room and we're going to introduce ourselves. But you're not allowed to use the branches and you're not allowed to use the roots. You only have to introduce yourself by the trunk. Every time I do that, there are tears.
Yeah. Well,
we're so used to introducing ourselves in relation to other people.
Absolutely.
Or what we do.
Yes.
But sometimes there's nothing in that trunk.
Exactly.
Now, as we go through work, we pull them out and there are. But it is, women tend to be raised as an accessory rather than the main event. And having voice and aging powerfully is going, yes, I still want to be all these things. I want to be all these roles.
Of course.
And I matter most in my own midlife. Absolutely. I matter by being my own evolved person. And from that place, I'm giving much better as all the other things.
Well, look, I know it's such a cliche, Alana. It's such a cliche, but only because it's true. And this applies to everybody, not just midlife women. If you're not looking after yourself, you really can't look after anybody else. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's just a bottom line. But you know what I'm going to do, Alana, is because you and I could talk all day and we're actually been chatting for an hour now. Which is great, and it's been absolutely amazing. But I will wrap it up at this point. But look, thank you so much for such an energetic, passionate, powerful delivery this morning of your message. Everything you're saying resonates with me. I'm sure it's going to resonate very strongly with everybody who watches this video beyond the shadow of a doubt. And just in terms, just to touch back on the summit again, so Alana will be on one of our expert panels, and Alana will also conduct one of our breakout sessions. The agenda is live now on nationalmenopausesummit.com for the 2024 summit, and I will be releasing details of the breakout sessions in the coming weeks. So Alana, you are a superstar. Thank you for all of the work that you do. And I will take this opportunity as well, if I can grab it here, to very much recommend that everybody gets their paws on this book, because it is powerful. It is not woo-woo. It is very, it's got
a few swear words in there.
There's a few swear words, so that works for me. It's got really practical advice. And I suppose the last thing,
there's exercises, at each chapter has exercise. So we cover everything. There's a menopause chapter, there's a self-identity, there's body image, and there's an exercise. So you end up with your own bespoke manual.
Exactly.
So just end with one thing to anyone who is listening. It doesn't matter what age you're at right now, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s. I need you to know that this is your time.
Yep, 100%. No, absolutely, 100%.
When you understand that this is your time, you can't wait for happiness for when your kids have grown up, or when your partner stops, has more time to help out, or when you've lost weight, or when you've want to. Now, this is your time.
Exactly.
We've got an extended midlife, and it's still too short.
Yeah. Grab it, go for it, girls and boys and everybody. Okay, Alana, thank you so much for that. You're an absolute superstar, and I'm so looking forward to seeing you in the Aviva Stadium on the 11th and 12th of April. All right, guys, don't forget to make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we're populating it now with a lot of content around the whole subject of perimenopause and menopause. So stay tuned, guys. See you soon, Alana.
See you soon. Thank you.